Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Strategic Business Influencer, my new series for leaders who know that in today's evolving world, trust is the greatest competitive advantage. Today's guest is Jaron Lukas, a powerhouse in pet nutrition and a true innovator at the intersection of wellness, tech, and sustainability. Jaron is the founder and CEO of Yumwoof Natural Pet Food, a company that's completely reimagining how we think about dog food. He's one of the leading voices in clean label formulation, and his commitment to ingredient transparency and product quality has made Yumwoof a rising force in the industry. Now, before he got called into pet health, Jaron built and sold successful fintech startup called CoinSetter, earning national media attention from CNBC, Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, and many, many more. So yes, this is a founder who knows how to build and scale across completely different industries. This is why I'm so excited to have Jaron on today. And he's also the author of an acclaimed book, The Canine Coco Omega Effect. So I'm excited to dive in, Jaron. Welcome to the series.
Thanks so much for having me, Paige. Good to be with you.
So I want to talk about your journey a little bit. As I mentioned, you've built and sold a fintech company, you advise $100 million brands, and now you're disrupting in a completely different industry, the dog food industry. And so I want to know what led you to pivot into an entirely new world like pet food.
It really came out of me wanting to do something I'm passionate about. I had previously, done different things in tech and even before that, finance, which personal satisfaction can be found in finance. But I think my career has really been a progression towards doing things that inspire me to get up every morning and do something that I think is going to make the world better. And so Yumwoof really evolved out of that. It was a combination of me getting this dog that I became obsessed with, Sherlock. And he also had some joint issues that kind of, made me start thinking about this. At the same time, I learned that all of my food allergies or all of my skin allergies are actually food allergies. So,
Wow.
I went on this just nutrition deep dive, came out on the other side of it. I ended up writing a whole book about data analysis on fats tied to dog longevity. And this really just became kind of a passionate obsession for me. And there are just so many bad dog foods out there that I ended up choosing to do something in this industry.
Wow. And I'm curious with all the different industries you've touched, have you seen any type of through line or commonality throughout your career?
I would like to say innovation. I really try to. I'm just personally interested in things that are kind of on the forefront of what's happening. So, really early in my career, way back when, a decade ago, actually more than a decade ago, about 12 years ago, I was the person who I had started one of the first venture capital backed Bitcoin exchanges in 2012. And I ended up being the person who taught the Wall Street Journal what Bitcoin is. Fast forward later, I ended up selling that company in 2016. I consider myself very much out of that space and doing something that I'm a lot more passionate about. But, I think that maybe that's an example of just where I've been trying, not necessarily super interested in a lot of what's happening in the mainstream. I'm always kind of looking at what are innovations that are happening today and how can we really do something kind of cool and fun with that. So with Yumwoof, we ended up inventing this soft and chewy air dried dog food. And so we really invented a new kind of format of dog food. And I think that when you look at what we're doing today, we were really one of the first brands that didn't use seed oils. We're still really one of the only brands doing that. But, seed oils, we actually just innovated with this new synthetic free dog food, which is very hard to do. So, I think we're really just continuing to kind of press forward and when I have all sorts of crazy ideas for things I might do next. And I think even lately there are different things that interest me. Like lately, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about like what kinds of packaging could replace plastic packaging, and just there these little things where like take it from someone who has tried to offer biodegradable bags and then seen all of them break on them. Like you see how kind of tough it is to be innovative when it comes to sustainability and stuff. So these are just things where it's like, okay, you see where like the world needs to head. Eventually, we will have better non-plastic packaging, but today it really doesn't exist. And so those are just like things I'm always thinking about. And today it even comes just out of personal problems I have running a dog food brand.
Yeah, I love that. And as you mentioned, Yumwoof is not your average dog food brand. Y'all are very innovative. And there's so much that I even saw differentiated just when I landed on your website. And so I want to talk to you about that from a branding perspective. What have you done intentionally to differentiate in such a commoditized space? Because when you think about dog food, it's pretty competitive out there.
Yeah, I think we might be in the most competitive industry out there. And so differentiation has been a key focus of mine all along. And, I think it really starts with just thinking about like, how are you, like, what are the priorities you're placing on your product that are making it different? And for us, one of those early ones was not using any seed oils. So, my wife and I spent 2 years on keto starting in 2020. And this again came out of like me learning that like I should try a food elimination diet and maybe like I'll discover what's wrong with me. And it worked. I just found all these things that I'm allergic to. But at the same time, it really got me into nutrition. And so we kicked seed oils out of our diet. And it was just kind of a natural thing at that point. Like, okay, I'm not going to eat seed oil. So why do I want that in my dog's food? And what a lot of people don't know is even like why seed oils are there in the first place. And it really comes from like all of these like basically evil dry kibble manufacturers that didn't want to use meat, which is a source of omega-6 as their main ingredients. So they had to find ways to supplement that. So by using cheap ingredients, they added cheap seed oils. But anyway, so like a lot of times when I meet people whose dogs are like 8 years old, and occasionally people will come to me and be like, yeah, he's getting up there in age. And I'm just like, your dog is actually not that old. Like you're just feeding them bad food.
Yeah.
So, a lot of this, I think some people start to emerge out of like maybe that base level, but then we compete as Yumwoof more in the premium category. And so standing out there across like all these different competitors, we have to think about, okay, like what are the reasons people might want to choose us? Why would I want to choose us over all these other options? Some of them are really great. And so, the no seed oils, again, that's really been a big one, the no synthetics. So like for us, it's a lot of, I would say like difficult to do product formulation type things that we focus on. But, I really, it's an evolving thing for us. Like, I don't think we're at the end of that journey. In fact, like we have a lot of internal conversations going on right now that are really talking about like, okay, what is it? What is the positive message that like people could tell their friends? Like what could we say about our company in one sentence that is so inspiring that people want to then go tell other people about it? And so I think that really gets to the core of like, how do you differentiate a brand? It's like a message that, is so kind of, welcoming that, people really buy into it and want to talk about it.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting, and that's what I see when I visit y'all's website is you and your wife's story, but also story of many others who have used Yumwoof and what it has done for their pets and their families, which I think is so incredibly powerful. With Yumwoof, you're not just building a brand though. You're really asking people to trust you with what they feed a member of their family. And that's how I think about, my dogs as members of our family. And that's a whole level of responsibility. So, as a founder, how do you approach earning that personal trust from pet owners, especially when there's so much noise on the market and there's so much education I'm sure that y'all have to do on the front end as well?
Yeah, yeah. One of the first things we do is we publish like full nutritional analyses. So we publish
Mhm.
more information than what most dog food brands are currently doing. In fact, we really don't hide our ingredients label either. You see, there are a few tricky things that different brands out there do. One, especially direct to consumer, what you see a lot is brands will list like their ingredients, but then under they'll list vitamins and minerals, and like that's
Mhm.
supposed to be in the ingredients label. But by separating it out, they can kind of trick people into thinking that, oh, this is a very limited ingredients dog food, not all those synthetics, because that's like kind of like a different section that I'm not going to look at even.
Mhm.
So we really just like shy away from doing stuff like that. So I think transparency is really number one. And in addition to that, I would say like just trying to be good at customer support. That's like one of the benefits that DTC brands have is like you do get to answer customer questions. Certainly. I mean, they're all over the spectrum. Like we have questions about like people whose dog has pancreatitis or like some food
Mhm.
allergy, and we, will respond to that. But having a level of expertise within the company about those things,
Mhm.
I think that's one way that we also build trust. So it's really across the board. It goes from the product. When you are using like for our perfect superfood, we have like different products, but for perfect superfood, that's the one where we essentially took the raw diet and air dried it. So the
Mhm.
benefit of that is that it has no synthetic vitamins and minerals because you're getting all the nutrients from organ meats. So
Wow.
that can have like a really limited kind of ingredient list because it's like literally all just real ingredients. And I think that by keeping the recipes somewhat simple to,
Mhm.
they're not simple for us. Like we have to use all sorts of dog food formulation software and whatnot to do these things. But
Sure.
for the end kind of customer, if they can just read the ingredients label, understand it easily, and then have this kind of like person they can talk to on the other end in case they have questions beyond that. Like, is this right for my dog? That's
Mhm.
I think how we have worked to build trust and yeah, I'm sure when you ask me this question a year from now, I'll have all sorts of things to add to it because again, like
Yeah.
all these things are constantly evolving.
Yeah. I think, what you said, transparency with the brand is so key, but also the customer service part, because I feel like that not only attracts customers, but that's what retains them. And y'all are in a business where you have, customers for a lifetime value, truly. And so I think that's really unique about what y'all do. When it comes to exposure, so I read, from your accolades, you've been on CNBC, you've done the Wall Street Journal, you've had major media exposure, which a lot of entrepreneurs don't get to that level. So I'm curious, your philosophy around using PR to build influence, and how should founders think about visibility? And then what other marketing, tactics have you felt have really moved the needle for you in the past?
Yeah, it's definitely been a wild ride because I've watched PR change so much over the years. Back when I was running, my fintech company, one of the big first Bitcoin exchanges I was mentioning, that was like really towards the end of like CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox News, like having, I would say like they were an organic channel on their own. So like
Mhm.
you would go on them and they had tons of viewers still. Like the internet was people would read stuff online, but it just wasn't fully transitioned over to the internet yet, where like
Mhm.
that was such a thing. those outlets, like they really can be part of a overall strategy where like they do still carry more trust than a lot of sources. But let's be honest, like nobody watches that news anymore. I think I was just looking this up, like 2 million people watch primetime Fox News today. And you think about how that compares to a lot of podcasts out there. I mean, Fox News, if you can get on it, I would still highly recommend doing that. But it is only one kind of like outlet today. And so, with all these podcasts, and even if you go on a podcast that's like, 500,000 views or something, you only need to add a few of those up before you kind of add the same kind of numbers. And there's like a lot more, like people are kind of like locked in on a device, whether it's their laptop or their phone, where like they also have easy access to the internet. So there's a lot more when you think about it in terms of like wherever you want people to go next to learn more or explore more about like whatever message you're presenting. It's just so much more easy to get people from point A to point B when you're like in one of these newer formats. Plus, there are so many more of them.
Right.
I was lucky back in the day to kind of, but I will tell you, like, there is nothing more nerve-wracking than going live on any of these channels.
I'm sure.
Oh my God. It is, maybe if I were to do it today, I would be like a lot calmer. I didn't meditate back then, but oh my gosh. Okay. I mean, they're just different formats too. Like one is like, for Bloomberg, if you're not live in studio with them, they put you in this like black box room, which is just like kind of creepy to be in. And you just have like one camera pointing at you with like a red light on it. And you're just like, ooh, I hope these millions of people like how I look, because I can't see anything. I'm just in a black box. And then there's like CNBC, if you're like prime time with them and you're like up there with people like Andrew Ross Sorkin and all that. I mean, that is like, you're just like, you are like such a professional speaker and I know a lot about something, but this is completely out of my zone. So definitely also like maybe less, a lot less scary to go on podcasts. But yeah, live television is definitely an interesting beast. So, it's interesting. The PR game, like, I don't know that like people, I think there's like a small group of people who could tell you like what the current PR game is.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think people are still like really confused by what's happening. They're still kind of like, they think PR, they think like, okay, mass media.
Right.
Even if they're thinking podcasts, it's like not very strategically well thought out. And really like the world has moved there. And I think fundamentally like PR is just all about like where are eyeballs and, how do you get in front of them without paid ads? It might still be paid, but it's different than like that than that paid marketing, like Facebook ads, stuff like that. It's more like where else are eyeballs? And it's definitely an interesting thing, isn't it?
Yes. And I think you talking about being in those, TV sets and in a live format. And I do think a major difference as well, especially for you as a passionate founder, is you're no longer beholden to a 2 to 5 minute, segment. It's now you get to do 30-minute formats, 40-minute formats, and really get into your expertise, the passion, the why, which I think translates so much stronger, just in terms of sharing why you're doing what you're doing and in your brand and the impact that you want it to have. So I love seeing that transition in terms of where people's attention is going, because you're right. It's so much more towards the micro media, which is, tuning in on the interests that they have and not wasting time on mass generic media where they might only get a fraction of what they're really looking for.
Yeah, I love it too. Like, I mean, I'm a total podcast nerd. I listen to a million intellectual podcasts and I compare it to how things were back in like, 2005 to 2012 era. And maybe like someone I would point out in that era was Charlie Rose.
Yeah.
like he was like a very good interviewer and had a lot of interesting guests on. And you know, he did really get into the long format. So maybe he's even a bad example, but I actually would counter position his role with the Charlie Rose show with what he did later as he was the host of like 60 Minutes. So he would have a lot of the same guests, but then he would highlight them on 60 Minutes, where it might be like a 5 to 10 minute kind of thing. And you are getting like visually engaging, kind of like, okay, here's like Steve Wynn in his casino, like walking around the resort. And it's like very visually interesting to watch. And it's a fun segment to watch, but you don't get any depth. And from that, I don't think you actually learn anything that can benefit your own life. So that's the thing I like about a lot of long form podcasts today is like, I watch them. Sometimes they are still brain rot, and I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, you know, if you're listening to really anything and you kind of pay special attention to some of the insights that like experts have, you can glean these like, wow, like I would have to be at like a dinner party with that person to like get this insight that I just learned. And that's the kind of stuff I love because, you know, as someone who runs a business, I'm always thinking about like, okay, what are the newest, most unique ways to grow a company? I'm also recently like, we're really expanding our team. So I'm also very interested in like, how do you think about like hiring the best people and managing an organization and what, you know, those are things that I'm kind of growing into as a leader. And so being able to kind of just like get those insights from, listening to something in the background is definitely handy.
Yeah. What's your favorite podcast right now?
Oh, well, my favorite podcast is actually the Tim Dillon Show. So it literally has nothing to do with business. But he's a very funny comedian. I've seen him live here in Austin many times. And he's my favorite. He's like always touching on like current events and political issues. But I would say my second favorite one that I've been listening to for a long time would be the All In podcast. I've been listening to that one for a long time. And then I kind of rotate through like a lot of different businessy ones. Most recently, I've been entertaining myself with Acquired, which will like, they'll go deep on just like a bunch of different entrepreneurs. Their whole life, basically, and how they started the company. Everyone from like Rockefeller to like who started Kellogg to I'm currently listening to Amazon.com. So they kind of go across the board, but it's like a really good one because you'll glean these insights on like, okay, here are commonalities of like how consistent entrepreneurship and what like kind of has unlocked new things over time. Like I was just listening to one about the Michelin brothers who started Michelin Tire and talk about PR strategy. They created the Michelin Guide, as many people will know.
Yeah.
And they really did it because at the time, like roads were barely a thing. And, you know, if you went on these road trips, like, you know, you kind of need to know where to eat. So they created the Michelin Guide. And from that, they also really built a brand reputation around that too. So that's a good one for any like PR nerd to dive into. If you just like try to learn about the origin of the Michelin Guide, you'll learn a lot, but it just shows you like not all marketing is paid ads, you know?
That's right. Yeah. I love that. I'm going to add that one to my list.
Oh, it's a good one. You'll love it.
That's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about, some of the stuff that you have out there online, just personally. I feel like this is so unique about you, but you've been very transparent on your, YouTube channel, personal site about failure, burnout, and just the realities of startup life. So I want to know from you, how has that vulnerability helped you as a leader and also just as a person?
Well, as someone who's been through many burnouts, a couple of big ones over the years, I definitely understand it. Well, we'll just say that I think the most important thing about burning out is to not burn out. So, I really take it to heart because it's something I can kind of notice in employees, and a lot of times they won't tell you. Of
Right.
course, I also notice it in myself, but that's a different topic. So, like, in terms of managing a team, that's something where I've like really like you really want to make sure that you maintain your employees,
Hmm.
and in order to do that, one of the most important things, especially if you're like a high growth company where everyone's like really high energy and intense and like focused on this mission, that's like the perfect environment where like if you're growing too fast and your team doesn't quite grow fast enough with it, people will hit these moments of like overwork and potential burnout. And so I'm by no means an expert, but one of the best things that happened to me is we brought on a new member of the team who is a business operations manager who's like really the middle person between like all of operations and all of the like businessy, marketing, financy stuff.
Hmm.
It essentially lets me like be creative and like be able to delegate a lot of the like operational stuff that comes off the end of that. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of it finds itself back. It's way back to me,
Sure.
but most of it doesn't. And so that member of our team has been someone who also, by working with so many other people, has been able to kind of like tell me, like find out about and tell me that like, hey, like this person like really needs support. Also, they're like about to burn out. So,
Mm.
it's something where, I think it, even if you're not the one burning out, it's something to like really place at the forefront. It's really hard. A lot of times people won't tell you though. And then for myself, and with the amount that I like, with the kind of goals that I put on myself, I constantly, have this kind of threat come at me. And so I'm just really,
Yeah.
I think what I try to do is like, if I notice I'm in that moment, I'll
Hmm.
just take a break. And
Hmm.
however long that break needs to be, I'll just like let that happen. So I would say that kind of maybe comes off of this idea that, is popular in tech about like mini retirements.
Mm.
Now, the mini retirement is like longer than the break I take usually. The mini
Sure.
retirement is like maybe a year. I have taken that too, but you want the, instead of thinking about like, okay, I'm going to work, and then I'm like 65, 70 years old and then I'm going to retire. It's this idea of like, I'm always going to be doing something. So
Hmm.
like, if I'm stressed out today, I need to make sure that I chill today.
Mm.
And that, so like these mini, I've kind of extended this idea of the mini retirement to like, it can be an hour, it can be a day, it could even be a week. I usually, I these days I don't make it go longer than a week, but I rarely do I even take a week vacation. But I do take vacations, and I think that's another thing I've noticed with like a lot of entrepreneurs is they really don't take any vacations.
Yeah.
Um, so that seems like a big warning sign to me. Just like maybe I've inserted more vacations into my lifestyle, and I work on vacations a lot of times. Like it's very rarely I'll go on a pure vacation, but I find I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who are like, yeah, I haven't taken a vacation in 20 years, and sometimes it's like a bad badge of honor, and I'm just like, dude, your life
Hmm.
sucks.
Mm.
Like that's like not my dream.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just I really think it's like if you are stressed, it happens all the time. Like if you are stressed though, like that's like a good time to go take a break and just like see how long that needs to be. And at some point, like you'll just find yourself in this moment where like work kind of like naturally makes sense to kind of go pursue that. And then that's when you like go back to work.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, mindset around a break doesn't have to be a year, but it could be an hour, it could be a week, it could be a year if you need it to be. You mentioned earlier you meditate now, and so I'm curious how you got into that and what does that look like for you as a daily practice?
Well, my meditation, came on the heel of a 2018 where I had a big financial gain and loss within 12 months.
Wow.
And so like, basically that was such a hit to my ego that I mean, I was like really depressed, honestly. And so I was recommended by my brother and sister-in-law to, hey, like go try this meditation app. You
Mm.
think you'll really like it. And so I did that, and I did quickly because I loved it. And so from there, I basically spent the next year just learning every type of meditation technique I could.
Wow.
And I was spending hours upon hours every day meditating. And it's really like the first thing that kind of got me from uh, being so tied, like, so, people like, and there's like sayings around how like your self-worth isn't your net worth. But
Mhm.
like people have a lot of trouble with that. And so it was like the first time I kind of like was able to kind of like break that apart. And and then it just became like such a daily necessity. Like I still meditate almost every day. I give myself Saturday and Sunday mornings off, but I end up still doing yoga and like meditating in some other way during the day. So it's it's pretty ingrained to me. I do find that it like really helps you just kind of like detach from the stresses of the world. So it's
Mhm.
just like a really easy way. Like again, a meditation doesn't need to be like 30 minutes long. It can just be a single breath. And, just like, okay, pulling yourself back has been really helpful for me to, when you're in those stressful moments, just remember like, okay, there's like something greater here. And there's something like I don't need to be so tied into this.
Mhm.
Yeah, huge part of my life. The yoga I also originally did for like similar, those kind of like reasons, but now I do it because I have a almost 11-month-old son at home who like I have to bend over and like do all sorts of things with
Mhm.
him. So when he was born, a few months after he was born, I recognized that like my joints weren't as flexible as they used to be. So yoga has become an important part of my life just so I don't feel 90 years old.
I love that. Yeah, those little ones will definitely, make you feel all the areas that you need to be stretching and, weightlifting and all those things. So I love that. And I think what you said was so incredibly important about, meditation and, not letting the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, take you all of those places, but staying centered and being able to remove yourself at times from that is so key. What a beautiful habit to instill. There are two questions that I love to ask every entrepreneur, and the first one is, who are you in addition to being a CEO?
I would say, in addition to being a CEO, I'm a hiker and a good friend. Um, I, there's something about life where I'm like just trying to kind of like enjoy the day. Um,
Mhm.
Mostly because like I have like other beliefs so deeply ingrained in me, like just like huge things. Like I don't know, I go on some pretty crazy vacations because of it, but a lot of times I'll be like, why am I not on a crazy vacation right now? And so I try to take a step back, and I'll just notice like the days that I enjoy most are the ones where like I go on a walk with my dog and I see my
Mhm.
friends.
Yeah.
So I think I do better than most people at maintaining friendships. Probably just because it's something I really care about.
Mhm.
And my dog does probably get more walks than pretty much any other dog out there.
And what kind of dog do you have?
Oh, he's a corgi poo, which
Oh.
is definitely an amazing breed. It's like a corgi that doesn't shed.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I
Yeah,
have
he's a
a
good boy.
English cream golden retriever, and I know about shedding. We've been through many a vacuums.
Yeah. The shedding will get you, but yeah, you'll
Yeah.
have to send me a pic. I don't think I've seen your dog yet.
Yeah, I'll definitely send you a pic and you the same. Um, and then the second question I want to ask you is what is the impact that you want to have at the end of every single day?
Uh, Great question. Not sure I've thought about it that way because usually people ask me like, what's the impact you want to have like overall?
Mhm.
And, asking what's the impact I want to have at the end of every day. And honestly, it has to change every day. I feel
Sure.
like one of the most important things to like, the whole lifestyle I've created is that like every day gets to be different.
Mm.
That's like one of the beauties, sometimes the pains of being an entrepreneur. And so, the impact, I think the impact that I want to have today is to, lead my team in the right direction and support their needs. I would probably extend that to, my family as well. So I guess, like supporting the people around me is probably like the inspiration I have of today. Um, and when it comes to my company in particular, I spent time this morning, I guess, kind of visualizing where I want the company to go, you know, uh, at like a bigger milestone. So I
Mhm.
was, really just trying to kind of understand what the company looks at that point, and those types of sessions always have me like texting a bunch of employees ideas. So, I think that I am currently laying the groundwork for the next kind of phase of growth for what we're doing. So,
Yeah.
that is, that was one side. The other side, I was thinking about like what some cool vacations look like. So I think I'm also kind of putting out there like an intention to have some fun vacations with some friends and family.
Yeah, what's the next big one?
Well, we're about to leave in a few days. We're going to Chicago. So
Oh,
we're going to
nice.
go meet up with a bunch of friends there. And then we're going to go visit our co-packers. So we're actually going to go visit one of our manufacturers. And hopefully something great will come out of that. Then we're going to go visit Anna's family in Arizona. And then I do promise you that Tucson was the last place I wanted to be in August. So that's kind of why I was trying to get out of Austin in the first place. So,
Mhm.
so I started looking at where are like, does anywhere in Arizona have like good temperatures in August? So it does turn out Flagstaff does.
Yep.
So we'll be spending a week in Flagstaff, and
Nice.
then yeah, we'll be coming back. But that'll be a good like 2.5 3 week vacation. We'll hopefully avoid the heat in August for the most part. And yeah, it's crazy. I'm trying to get back to Mexico too.
Yeah.
Haven't I know you were recently in Mexico City, and I'm like really dying to get back because I haven't been in like a year, and really missing it. So maybe like later this year we'll try to get there.
There you go. I love your mix in family, business, and fun, all in a couple of weeks. That's amazing.
It's the Jared way. You can trademark that.
There we go, the Jaron way. Well, thank you so much, Jaron, for being on today. Please share with anybody listening where they can find you and more about Yumwoof.
I'm Jaron Lukas on Instagram, and Yumwoof is my company. So we're yumwoof.com. It's like yummy and woof. Uh, so yumwoof.com and Yumwoof on Instagram. And yeah, those are the best ways. Anyone who wants to learn more about dog nutrition, and I wrote this book, The Canine Coco Omega Effect, which it's an interesting read for anyone who either like has a dog with a bunch of inflammatory issues, or like you just want to read a bunch of research about what fats are leading to dog longevity. Um, and yeah, like definitely hit me up on Instagram if you have any questions about that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jaron. And you just shared so much just in terms of your journey, experience, vulnerability with us all. And I appreciate it. And I know that anybody listening to this is going to get tremendous value. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Paige. Good being with you.
All righty. Well, we'll see y'all next time.